I think we should keep this bit now.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for joining me today. So you can see that I have a very special guest and I'm going to introduce her a little bit later to you. So if you want to find out who my special guest is today, then please keep on watching. Okay, so you can see I've got a lovely guest. You can probably see her name actually on the Zoom recording, but I'm sure many of you know Tanya, and I've known Tanya I think for many years because I had the privilege of being one of the workshop leader participants. So she actually trained me and set me on my journey to be a workshop leader. So I'll always, remember some of the fantastic strategies and the advice, Tanya, that you helped us with during that workshop training. And I thought it would be so lovely to hear some of the things that bring you joy in the role that you have. We kind of have similar roles that we try and help schools and guide schools with curriculum development and pedagogy. What are some of the things that really bring you joy in your role?
First of all, Jennifer, thank you so much for having me. I feel very privileged and honoured that you chose me, so thank you very much for that. Look, I think what brings you joy, in particular as a consultant, is that idea that when you do go in and you start seeing change and your conversations with teachers start shifting. And I think when you first go into schools, such a big part of it, though, is building those relationships and building that trust with teachers and so on. And when you have that ability to work with schools in an ongoing basis as opposed to just a one-off, you really get to see change and you get to see these teachers really grow and then really be able to lead those discussions that you were previously leading. And then you're going into the classroom and you're actually seeing children involved in inquiry. You're seeing concepts up in the classroom. So I think that's the biggest joy, when you actually see what you've done has had a lasting impact. So it's not just sort of like this quick one-off done, but you're actually seeing this take place. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, of course, because I think a lot of schools are beginning to understand the power of that sustained, continuous professional learning. And that one and done model just doesn't work. People get really excited with you for 2 days. They go back to their school, their schedules become really busy. Yeah. And so having that continuous partnership, because I know you do a lot of partnership work where you're guiding, people's journeys in their pedagogy and their curriculum development. I know that you've probably had many moments actually that have been really rewarding. Is there one particular one that really resonated with you in terms of an educator that really transformed or somehow changed after your guidance and after learning from you?
Yeah, I worked with a Chinese school for about 3 or 4 years in a very quite ongoing basis. So I would go there twice a year, and it's a big shift in pedagogy for teachers. And the language of instruction was in Chinese as well. And so it was very, very different. And I think that was a highlight, like to go into their classrooms and see just their classroom environment transformed.
Wow.
And to see them no longer feeling the need to use the maths textbook because they've understood how you can use math manipulatives. Yes. No, I remember one girl talking to me, she goes, I just hold it just in case, right? So that idea of the security blanket. But I think that was quite a rewarding experience because you've taken a textbook approach to teaching and you've moved it into this more inquiry, and that was across the curriculum. So that was probably been one of the most rewarding in terms of the biggest shift, I would say.
Yeah. And I have to agree that, and I can say this because I'm a maths educator myself, we are the most resistant in terms of trying to transform our practice. And so you had an impact on somebody that had relied on their textbook, which a lot of us do. I've been guilty of it. I've been guilty of it. Then, I think that you've made huge gains there. Now, I don't want to let you go. This is going to be short, but I just have to ask you one more thing, like while we're here and, while the audience is listening to your words of wisdom and experience as well, if you could share like a little nugget of wisdom or an insight that may help perhaps a leader or a teacher, what would that insight be?
Yeah, I think what we try and do in education is we try to do too much. In particular with professional development. And, as soon as a new thing comes along, it's like, oh, let's do professional development on that. Let's do professional development on that. When really it's all so interconnected. So, if you're focusing on inquiry, for instance, and that's your focus, as you're focusing on inquiry, differentiation is going to become a part of that.
Yes.
Formative assessment is going to become a part of that, right? Yes. And so this idea, but we tend to go, well, we're going to do an inquiry workshop. Now we're going to do an assessment workshop, and no one's making those connections for teachers. So they see it as these separate entities as opposed to this. It's all very quite holistic. And so I think that's why I like working with schools on an ongoing basis, because you can keep coming back and say, well, this is connected to inquiry, right? We're allowing students to be differentiated by interest, for instance. So you can do the differentiation workshop, but that idea of connecting it so they see those connections. So I think that would be the nugget.
You've just given me a light bulb moment about that, because I've had educators actually ask me, oh, I have the visible thinking routines. I've read the differentiation book. I've read the concepts book. I've read the inquiry book. And they don't understand how to put it all together. They think it's all separate, entities rather than pieces in a jigsaw. So how do you start, Tanya? Because it is so complex and connected.
It is so complex. And it's really, in a sense, it's that idea of when you're planning. Right. And when you're planning, you should be looking at inquiry, concept-driven, differentiation, and good formative assessment, right? That's what should be at the forefront of all your planning. And so the thing is, if you're doing inquiry, then you have to be differentiating, because inquiry is about following students' interests, which is differentiation. It's also finding out what students know, what they don't know, which is your formative assessment, which is differentiation. And, and then putting that conceptual lens underneath it, which allows for greater differentiation because you're not differentiating by content.
I love it.
So
I love it.
Yeah. So that's why I think teachers, and it gets a bit much. It's like, oh my gosh, now we're doing this, now we're doing that. So I just think if people can make connections for teachers so they can see it's not something new, it supports what they're already doing.
Yes, and then be intentional about that planning to show that connectedness between all of these different, philosophies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, lovely. So if people want to contact you, how can they reach you, Tanya? Are you on Twitter?
Yeah, I am on Twitter. I'm at IGE Educators, or Tanya.
I follow you.
Thank you. Or Tanya at innovativeglobaled.org, so they can also email me.
Excellent. So thank you so much for your time today. Even in the last couple of minutes, I've got a few little takeaways for myself as a consultant. So thank you so much. And I hope that in the near future, you'll come back.
Yes, I would love to come back. And thank you for having me again. I feel very honoured. So thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today. And feel free to contact Tanya on her social media or her email. And if you have any questions or comments, then please put it in the section below. And I hope to see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.